Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to episode 2 of Joey's Java Talk. Last week's episode was great. I'm so glad you tuned in and that you're back for more today. We've got some awesome feedback from last week's episode, so continue to send us your comments and questions about what you want answered from these interviews that we're doing. I enjoyed my conversation last week with Mark and Mayor Sirachi, as well as Nicole in the construction. Today's episode is going to dive a little bit more into the artistic process of how we go about selecting our shows and what it's like for a director once a show is chosen and they're chosen to direct it. It's a two-part interview today. My first is with Matt Botine. Matt is the professional licensing director of Music Theatre International, or MTI as some people know it. Music Theatre International is one of the world's leading licensing companies that grants theaters like the Fulton the rights to do the shows that we get to do. It's a pretty involved process, so I'm glad Matt is here today to speak with me about what goes into selecting a season that we do and when we can't get the rights to shows. I use a show like Mamma Mia as an example. Mamma Mia was a show that our audiences begged us to do for years and we wanted to do for years. But a show like Mamma Mia is so large, it had a movie, it had a sequel, it had a Broadway run, it had a tour out. So there's a lot of moving parts as to when we can and can't do a show. So I'm glad to have Matt here to talk to me a little bit more about licensing shows. Our second interview today is with the amazing Paige Price. Some of you may remember Paige as she directed last season's studio theater production of Next to Normal. She also is the executive artistic director of the Philadelphia Theater Company in Philly, and she started out as an actress. She was in the original Broadway production of Saturday Night Fever. She was in a movie with Tom Cruise, you know, because we all do that. She also was one of the first vice presidents of Actors Equity Association, and I think she's been on the board since 2000. So she's a really awesome human being, and I'm so grateful that our paths crossed when they did, and I can now call her a friend and colleague. And again, I'm very grateful for both of them taking the time today to talk with us about their passion of what they do in the theater. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, grab some tea, maybe a cocktail. I mean, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, right? I'm drinking some coffee out of my What's Cooking with God, an Act of God coffee mug. Shameless plug for Fulton merchandise. Anyway, sit back, enjoy, and like I said, continue to let me know what you want to talk about with these people. I'm happy to ask the questions for you. And again, we thank you for being here with us today, continuing to support the Fulton in this time. And we hope to be back on stage with you guys soon. But for now, sit back and enjoy Matt and Paige. So I'm going to give a little bit of background about Music Theatre International, some stuff that I pulled from the web. It's one of the world's leading theatrical licensing agencies, granting theaters from around the world the rights to perform the greatest selections of musicals from Broadway and beyond. And something I didn't know was that it was founded by Frank Lesser. I didn't know that. Yeah, in 1952. Right. So some of the shows that the Fulton has done in the past are Hunchback of Notre Dame, Mamma Mia, Newsies, Little Shop of Horrors, Kinky Boots, Once, The Producers, and Sweeney Todd. Those are just a few of the ones that I saw that we've done in the past. And upcoming, we're going to be doing The Drowsy Chaperone and Ragtime, which I'm very excited about when we get to do it. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about your background, how you arrived at the job that you have at MTI?
Sure. Well, I started out as an actor. I moved to New York to be an actor, and I did that for a few years and really loved it. And I wanted to be a performer forever. But then I decided I was tired of traveling around the country doing work, which is what most of my work meant. Like getting jobs going somewhere else. And I just thought, how do I set down roots? How can I live in New York, the city where I always wanted to be? And so just everything sort of happened around the same time. I just was getting tired of leaving and wanted to be here. And I was thinking about my future. And so I actually started working at the Actors Fund of America. And I was there for like 3 years and loved that. And that was great. And then a friend of mine told me about a position at Music Theater International, which I knew very well because I've used their scripts forever, scripts and scores materials, and so I jumped, and I've been here since 2006.
Okay. So can you explain a little bit about what a licensing house is, and can you describe to our audience like what goes into acquiring the scripts and how it all happens?
Sure. So a show plays on. So first off, a show play on Broadway, or off Broadway, or London's West End, and then as the show's life on Broadway starts to wind down, they are hearing from theaters around the country and around the world who want to do the show, and the authors don't want to handle that transaction. So they bring in a licensing house to handle those rights. So the licensing houses, and there are a handful of large ones in New York, we bid on the titles. And we bid on a title to be able to represent it for a term of usually 20 years, 25 years, something like that. And so once we have that in our catalog, then we organize we get all the scripts and the scores and all the materials from the authors and make sure everything's in running order. And as long as there's once a tour is finished and there are no other conflicts anywhere, then we're free to license everywhere or wherever we've arranged to be able to license. Sometimes some of our rights are limited to the US, and some of our rights are just for certain countries, or some for the whole world.
Right. How does an author choose what licensing house to go to? Is it something that they shop around? Is it kind of like you have meetings and decide who's going to represent your material best?
Sometimes,
or is it the other way around?
It's different for every show. Well, we'll seek out a show that we really would like because we think it's going to do really well, or that we love, or whatever. And then a lot of times, if you have a relationship with the author, like you have there are other titles in your catalog, that can help, but there's still no guarantee. There's one title. We've had titles, in fact, that although we've had all the other shows by a certain author, this one title, if there's a rights issue because of whatever reason, because maybe the source material belongs somewhere else, then that title will have to go to the separate house. But usually, if we have all the shows from a certain author, then it seems more likely than we're going to get their next show. Otherwise, it can be because they'll interview us, they'll come and meet us, and they'll kind of get a feel for us and see if this is a good fit, or otherwise it just comes strictly down to how big is the advance. It just depends.
Are there certain authors that have their materials at different licensing companies? Like, the bigger names, they have several shows. Are they mostly all with one place?
They're mostly all with one place. The exceptions are the one I mentioned before, like where the previous version of that title was tied to a different licensing house, or on a new show, for example, from a few years ago, we represent the music, the composer. We represent everything that she does, the composer. But for this new show, the book writer was with another house, and the book writer initiated the project, so it was kind of the book writer's show. So the book writer decided that this piece was going to go to a different licensing house, although we have all of that composer's work in our catalog otherwise.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So the question probably everybody wants to know is, how do you guys make money?
We take a commission out of each license that we issue.
Yeah.
Licensees will pay us. we pay the vast majority of that to the authors, and we take a small cut.
What is the number one requested show that you guys have that theaters want to do currently?
Well, currently, because of what's happening,
Yeah.
I'd say it's a tie between Side by Sondheim, The Last 5 Years, and I Do.
And can you tell the audiences why those shows might be interesting for theaters right now?
Because of the pandemic, people are looking for shows that only have a couple of actors, or that where it's easy to stage the actors 6 feet away from each other. Right. And on most of those shows, you can do that.
Before pandemic, what were some titles?
Fiddler's always been really popular. Mamma Mia is very popular. Strangely, Seussical, the Theater for Young Audiences, has been a really, really big title for us. And certainly all the Disney titles, Beauty and the Beast, and
right.
The Little Mermaid and Mary Poppins.
Not Mamma Mia?
Oh yeah, I think I said Mamma Mia.
Oh, did you see it? Oh, maybe there was a Zoom delay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Mamma Mia. Certainly.
Mamma Mia was one of those shows. I was an actor too for years. I'm still an actor. I just don't do it as often. But Mamma Mia was one of those shows that I went in for in New York forever and never got the show. And now I'm 41 and I'm like, I'm never going to do Mamma Mia. We did it last year.
Oh, you did? Were you in it?
I was in it, and it actually turned out to be one of the most amazing theatrical experiences of my life.
Fantastic.
I could do it forever. It's one of those shows that it's just fun to do.
Right.
So wait, I'm going to go back a little bit. I skipped over something. We were talking about authors. So what else do you guys protect from the piece? Like sometimes we'll get a show and we won't be able to use our own logo design for it. Is that all part of what comes from you guys?
Mm-hmm. Because it depends on the deal that we made with the authors. Sometimes the authors will say, you can only use this logo that MTI will license, or on the other hand, they'll say, they'll not give us any rights for logos. And so we'll say, not only can you not use the Broadway logo, but the logo you create cannot look anything like that, because if you're infringing on someone else's design by sort of copying it, then they could come after you.
Right. I was going to say something else with that, and it left me. I guess that goes for the types of things that we as a theater are able to do as far as video recordings, as far as how we do B-roll and marketing. That all comes from a contract with you guys as well, right?
That's right. Yeah. Rights holders are really protective of their shows. They don't want them recorded, because if it's recorded, it's going to stay out there forever, or it could stay out there forever. And if they didn't have any hand in producing it, then they're not sure of the quality of it, and they would rather, well, I mean, that's one reason. Another is if it's based on a movie, the movie rights may say there can be no other video recording of this. Just, it's tricky. It's all tricky.
Yeah, no, and it's different for every show, because I know
Certainly.
we have a season. Some of them it's like, we can do whatever we want, and other ones it's you can't do this, you can't do that, you must do this,
Right.
That kind of thing. What excites you most about what you do? What is the thing that you get up and go to work for every day?
I love
stay at home for work right now.
Right. I love being able to talk to theaters. As I said, I was an actor, and I deal with theaters where I worked, and I love that connection. I've been there long enough. I have relationships with with many of these theaters, and it's a pleasure to talk with them and to figure a problem out. To work on a show work on a deal for a show that they want, and to actually allow it to happen for them, and to help put all the pieces together. I think that's really exciting. I enjoy that a lot.
I feel the same way, because as an actor too, you do have a certain connection with a theater in a different way than maybe someone who didn't have a performing background or wasn't so attached to the art form. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I guess how do you see how do I put this? Where do you see things moving forward for your work as we move forward in this time frame that we're in right now?
Well, it's tricky because very few of the theaters we license to can even perform right now. So it's kind of we're just sort of holding our breaths, waiting for something to happen, waiting for things to open back up. But it's also a little bit exciting. I mean, it's scary certainly, but it's also a little bit exciting because the theaters that we're dealing with are having to think outside the box, and we're seeing a lot of people come up with creative ways to get their stuff seen and to remain relevant to their audiences. Right. So it's fun to get to see.
And how, I guess a lot, as far as what we're doing right now, we're trying to do as much of what we couldn't do this past spring and, move it to next, this fall or next season.
Right. Right.
Can you explain to our audiences why that might be difficult for some theaters to do? Because like, for instance, we were doing Kinky Boots and people were like, oh, you can just do it again. Right. We might not be able to do something again because it may then, be already licensed to someone else at that point.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Can you give a little insight on that?
Yeah, it's so complicated. When somebody asks for rights, it's not just an issue of, okay, you can do it whenever you want. It's well, let's see who else is around you. So I spend half of my day looking at a map to see where everyone is in relation to other theaters. And what I really need is I need a map of where all of the theaters are. I don't have that. I have to look up the city. I mean, I've been doing this long enough. I know where a lot of people already are, but some places I don't deal with very often who are not in big cities, I have to look at the mileage, from them to a competing theater and see if it's going to be an issue. And if it is an issue, if it's within say 85 miles, then I will call the theater, the first one who has the rights, and I'll say, Theater B is interested in this. Would you have any problem with our licensing them for these dates? And sometimes they'll say no, sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say, well, maybe we can work out a deal. Maybe next time they'll let us do a show if they have it. So it's different. Every situation is different.
I guess too, because even if you just said this theater maybe 85 miles away, they might not compete for audiences.
That's right.
That you can go see something somewhere and then go see it another place as well.
Right.
Do you have anything else you want to add or say about what you do?
I don't think so. But I've really enjoyed working with the Fulton Theatre since 2006. You guys are one of my favorites, and it's such a pleasure to deal with you. And so it was nice to meet you, Joey, and good luck. And to your audiences, please continue to support the Fulton.
Yeah. Well, I really thank you for taking time today to speak with us, Matt.
Thanks, Joey. It was a lot of fun. Take care.
Bye.
Be well.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you, everybody, for sticking with us as we had a little bit of technical difficulties with internet connection for the first part of that interview. Matt changed locations, if you noticed, different room. But what I didn't get to ask him, and I wish I would have, was about the materials that we also get from the licensing companies when we do a show. So when an actor arrives, they get a script and a score, and our orchestra gets a score that is specific to their instrument. So MTI is responsible for giving us all those materials, as well as 70,000 other professional, community, and school theaters in the United States, as well as 60 countries around the world. Pretty cool stuff. Is everybody having a good time? Having coffee? What else are you doing on a Tuesday at 2, right? Sipping some Java. Or actually, I'm having tea today because it's a tea day, a green tea day. The second part of today's episode is dedicated to the director. I'm speaking with Paige Price, who is the Executive Artistic Director of Philadelphia Theater Company, and she also directed last season's Next to Normal in the Tell Studio Theater. So sit back and listen to what it takes for a director to put a show together here at the Fulton. Okay. Hi, Paige.
Hi.
Welcome to Joey's Java Talk.
I feel like I should get coffee, but I don't have it.
You should have your coffee. See, I have mine right here.
All
And
right, I'm going to pretend.
Hi, Paige. Welcome. How are you
I'm okay. I'm okay today.
today? And you are in New York, you said?
Yeah, I'm in New York City today.
Yeah. How are things in New York City for you? Are you staying put? Are you venturing out?
Venture out a little bit. I took a bike ride, which was a big deal. And, I don't go out that much, though. I'm trying to really, protect myself
Right.
and my husband and my family.
I'm going to give a little background of who you are. Paige is the producing artistic director at the Philadelphia Theatre Company. And from 2007 to 2017, she was the executive artistic director at Theater Aspen in Colorado. Paige was the first vice president of the Actors Equity Association, which is the national union for actors and stage managers, and served as vice president as well. As a performer, she was in original companies of Saturday Night Fever, as well as original casts of Disney's Beauty and the Beast and Smokey Joe's Cafe. She was also in a couple movies, All the Right Moves. I had to, sorry. And numerous television, off-Broadway, regional theater, and national international tours. Hi, Paige. Welcome. Thanks for being with us today.
Hi, that was a good rundown. We shot All the Right Moves in Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Did you really? Oh my gosh. I was contemplating whether I was going to ask you about that movie or not, because I'm sure people ask you all the time.
It was super fun. It was Tom Cruise right after he did Risky Business, but it hadn't come out yet. So
Right.
People knew he was a big deal, but
Yeah, he hadn't become Tom Cruise yet.
Yeah. He was
Wow. So tell us a little bit more about you, Paige, about how you, your career and how you ended up where you are today.
I'm laughing because I started out as a dancer when I was about 4 and did that track. So, all the classes, gymnastics, tap, ballet, jazz, community theater, all the things. And when I was about 13, I started getting a little more serious and went to New Jersey School of Ballet, where I was starting to do company classes and be really serious. And my mother said something to me that has haunted me ever since, and now I laugh because she was afraid I was going to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. And in fact, I have built a career on that.
Right.
I'm curious. I like to do a lot of things, and I just didn't really see any reason why I could only do just one thing. So I think that's what has led me from being a dancer to being an actor to singing to all the things, from leadership at Equity to ending up in arts administration of all things. Because I never said no. It was a problem. So I think that was largely responsible for just amassing weird stores of knowledge. And I would find myself, even when I was just acting, just curious, like, what does that cost? Or what do you do? I was just curious about all the things. And so when I ended up acting in Aspen and they were looking for a new artistic director, I thought, well, I'll help you find somebody. I know lots of people. And it just turned out that by the end of that process, they offered me the job, which I never had imagined I'd be able to do.
Right.
But so I've always said you learn more by saying yes to something than no. So that's
run towards it.
So I am a jack of all trades.
People may or may not know this that are watching today, but you directed Fulton's production of Next to Normal last year, which we're going to talk a little bit about later in this conversation. But as a director, my first question to you is, what is the utmost prerequisite before you decide on that you're going to take on a directing project? What is it about it that it has to be there for you to say yes?
There has to be something in it that is puzzling to me. So something that I want to come at from a different way. And even if it's something that I saw that I loved, like, I don't think I would be interested in doing something I thought was perfect, or that I thought had a perfect production. But if there was something that is in the back of my mind, like, oh, I just think, what would it look like if?
I got my hands on it. What could I do?
Yeah, I like the problem solving. What if we came at it from a different angle kind of thing? So I think there has to be something that I'm curious about having my hands on.
Yeah. So once you've decided and once you take on a project, how do you decide what direction you want to take that production in? Like, where's the beginning thing that you start with?
Identifying what you want to build it on. So for instance, I will talk about Next to Normal,
Sure, yeah.
because that was something that when I saw it, I just thought, oh, it's I wish it breathed more. I wish there was more space. And so that's how I started looking at our production. And it doesn't matter about budget. It doesn't, none of that matters. It's about your approach on any budget. But I was like, where would the space be? Where would the audience have time to breathe? And it actually worked out great that we were able to do, I thought simplicity would be a really interesting thing to look at with that show.
So can you talk a little bit about the collaborative process that you have between yourself, a music director, set designer, lighting designer, what your approach is, how you decide on the look and feel of the show with those other collaborators?
I think that's the thing that I've learned most about over the years. You know, initially I thought, oh, director has to have all the answers. So this is what it wants to look like. This is how it wants to move. This is what they should wear. You know, there has to be room for everyone else to bring something to the table. And so, especially when you're working with people you don't know. So that is, you know, you go look at all of the work they've done, look at pictures that are available online. It just helps you get a sense of someone's aesthetic, and you can key in on something that really excites you about their work. And then it's literally about just having conversations with them one-on-one, getting to know them, and finding out what they think. And you learn so much more when you don't say, here's all my ideas, you know, it's just like, you talk first and tell me what you think, and then, you know, best idea wins.
How far in advance do you normally start working with designers on a show?
Oh, really depends on the timeline of the theater, but ideally, in earnest, like eight months out.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that, you know, it's a long journey getting from hiring everyone and deciding you're going to do the play to the night it opens, you know?
Yeah.
And then all the things that happen in between that, you know, that come along that you're like, oh, I didn't think about that, and we have to deal with that situation, or, you know, how many seats we can fit in here, and all the other things that come along in the process. What is your favorite part of the process?
Oh, casting.
Yeah. We did have fun doing that, didn't we?
Casting is so much fun. I love actors so much. I think that's when I learn a lot about what is possible with characters. You know, they bring so much into the room, and if you make that room warm and inviting and open and fun, they'll teach you what about the play, things you didn't know.
I did. I'll tell the audience, we worked together, you and I, and Bob Klein, on casting this play, Next to Normal, and I have to say it was one of the most amazing weeks of my life, because I didn't really know you that well up to that point, and I got to sit next to you, you know, all day long for 4 or 5 days. And it's true. Actors, I think you get out of them in a casting room, you get out of them what you give them when they walk in. So if you create a friendly environment, a warm, open environment, which you do, it completely allows them to then have the ability to let go and give their performance to you. So I want people to know that you're every person that came in the room that knew you, I remember that they would always look at you and, you know, come talk to you at the table and just give you such loving energy that it was a great process.
I mean, you know, my experience as an actor was very helpful in that regard, because you just remember, you know, it's so hard for actors to remember that we just want you to be amazing when you come in, and we expect nothing less. And so we're there for you, but you forget, and it's hard. And I've sat in those rooms where I'm auditioning and somebody's, you know, it's really not fun.
Right. So. And it is. I remember the day we were done, and you lay everybody out on the table, and you look at them, and you looked at me, and you're like, they look like a family, right? I was like, yes, this is them. This is it. So let me see, what else? Talk a little bit more about your time with Next to Normal at the Fulton, because a lot of the people that you had worked with before, the actors and a lot designers you had worked with, but some you had not. So what was that process here like for you, since it was your first time?
Actually, there was, I knew two of them before from my time in Aspen. They had done multiple shows for us. So, and that was really fun because I knew, it was fun to have sort of tent poles to build around, because I knew what their personalities were like. You don't always know how people are going to mesh. Alex Walton, I was friends with his family for decades, so I was around when he was born, which is
crazy.
Just think about that for a minute. But I had always been curious about, I knew his sister, the whole family, it's like the Von Trapps. And so I was really curious to see what he would bring to the room. And then I had worked with Abigail right out of school. She was still in school, in fact, when we brought her.
Yeah, she graduated, didn't she, while we were in rehearsal?
Yeah, she can get to walk, so we did it in the rehearsal room. But she had come to Aspen, and Anne I knew, and she was friends with Mark. I mean, it just was, it was the only one I really didn't know was Devin. Mm-hmm. And he was just so delightful, and you guys knew him, so, and that always helps, when you can speak to your colleagues about what people are like in the room. That's a very intimate room. It's not like the main stage, it's there's no hiding. So we really needed actors, and I was just delighted with that cast. And then Garrett, the music director, I didn't know. I had been introduced to him at a party, and then he sent me an email about doing something in Philadelphia, and it didn't work out. When I remembered him, I thought, oh, I'm going to go, and he is hilarious. That turned out to be just sort of a kismet, and so it was delightfully loopy, and we had way too much fun. Yeah. We got paid to have
way too much fun for a show that isn't necessarily such a fun subject.
No, exactly.
But I mean, that's a good thing, though, that you could have, because the show, the subject matter was such a difficult subject matter, that to be able to know that you could have that comfortability with those people, that's a huge part of the process that I think a lot of people don't know, is that the rehearsal room is a really great space. Like a lot of times for me, I enjoy that process almost not even more than performing, but once that process is over, it is that kind of like shift of like, oh, that part's over, and we're never going to have that again.
I love rehearsals. I always did as an actor too. That was my favorite part, because it was like it's messy. You make mistakes. You have good days. You have bad days. You watch people triumph. Everybody's sort of in the same space, and we talked a lot about that too, because it is a mentally tricky show, and trying to find a way for everyone to take care of themselves. And what we came up with is that I recognized one day that was like, oh, everyone in this show, every character is a caretaker. And that immediately shifted everybody into looking toward the other people and not focusing on their own thing. And it was amazing what it did to the energy in the room, that when you're thinking about what can I do for you, it was a good way to unlock that play for us.
Yeah, a lot of people viewing may not have seen a show in our studio theater. So I'm gonna give a little bit of background about what that space. It's the Ellen Arnold Groff series, which is the Tell Studio Theater. We do 4 shows up there a season, and it seats up to about 120 people. We started it in 2015 as a cutting edge series, shows that you wouldn't necessarily see on the main stage. The shows chosen for the Groff series are meant to spark conversation and challenge our audiences with subject matter that go deeper into the human condition and are sometimes difficult. And Next to Normal definitely was one of those. But what I loved most about, because I came to watch a couple of the rehearsals in the rehearsal space, and I love that you guys set the room up the way that the audience was going to be, because it was kind of in a thrust/round. There were seats everywhere, and I remembered watching. I think I watched it 3 times before you guys went into tech, and every time I watched it, it was amazing, because you really did. I did see not 3 different shows, but 3 different attacks at it, and I think that's a tribute to you also of, completely letting them have that, ability to try and fail or try and succeed. So bravo to you on that.
That was the hardest.
Yeah.
The geography of that, the architecture of that space was the hardest part of that, because there literally was no place to go.
There's not a lot of space.
Yeah, so you're like, how do you keep them on stage and turn into, it was that, and that was actually fun. It was hard, but fun.
Are there some directing projects that you are hoping you can tackle? Are there some things that you have your eye on that you hope can happen in the future after all this craziness is over?
Yeah. I mean, I would love to direct Fun Home. I kind of like the family. I like the family dramas. The real character studies. I like those kinds of shows. I was supposed to direct. Speaking of not that, I was supposed to direct Always Patsy Cline this summer, and so that one was harder to find, that little thing about why this show.
Yeah, right.
My thing just started. Do you want me to turn off the air conditioner? Can you hear it?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah. So I was supposed to direct Always Patsy Cline, and that got put off till next year. But I want to crack at some of those big musicals. I want to do Gypsy, which is one of those shows that I've always loved. But there's too many of them. Yeah. But I don't care. I want to do it anyway.
You want to do it all.
Yeah, I want to do Gypsy, just because I love that story.
Final question. I don't want to keep you too long. Can you share with us some of your most memorable career experiences? Like, what are some of the highs, top 3 things? Because you've had a pretty long and extensive, awesome career.
Highs. I mean, I would have to say, to be honest, Beauty and the Beast was kind of a magical opening. No one knew what it was going to be like to have Disney on Broadway, and there was some side eye about Disney and dancing forks and all that stuff. But the real truth is watching those little kids in the audience that were dressed up and just so transported. I mean, you could see it. That was amazing. I will not forget the sumptuousness of how that was produced. And just the story. You can't beat that story. It's just,
and to see what it created afterwards. I mean, Disney is such a huge part of the Broadway world now.
Yeah, and many people, my current managing director, she's younger than I am. She just told me how transfixed she was, and she was obsessed with that show when she was younger, and it pulls people into our field. That's fun to know. Of course, one of my other favorite memories from that show was I was dancing the ensemble, and I was a plate at the given moment I'm about to tell you about. And we were decked out. We had ladles wrapped around there was everything. We had, it was hat on a hat on a hat.
Right.
Just
in gold.
Yeah. I think we had a teacup around our ankles. And when I went to go down the stairs, 15 steps down from the big platform, I slipped. My teacup got caught in between two of the stairs. And so on Broadway, I had a 6-foot plate on my back, and I fell down every stair.
Yeah.
Landed on my back, couldn't get up because we're in harnesses. So a stagehand had to come and yank me up. That was definitely one of my
on Broadway
favorite memories. Yes. I always remember the times when things go wrong.
Yeah.
But then I also remember. I remember closing nights. I remember closing nights because they. It's not so much that they're sad, but they are like they put a bow on experiences and families, and people always talk about theater being a family. It kind of is, for better for worse.
Completely.
And I just remember the closing night of Saturday Night Fever, which was a tough experience for me. I got injured, and I presciently said, this might be my last Broadway show, and it was. Wow. And I just remember thinking there was so much I wanted to hold. it was good. It was when I was old enough to like really take every experience and be grateful for it.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you joined me this afternoon. It's so good to see your face.
Thank you.
And I wish you guys so much luck and, you know, everything that's going on your side of things there. And thank you for joining us today. You're amazing, Paige.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be there, and I'll take another ride to Lancaster.
Yes, Lancaster.
And just look at the theater.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yay! So that concludes today's episode. I want to say thank you to Matt and Paige for taking time and speaking with me. Stay tuned next week for episode 3, where we focus on the casting process. I will be speaking with New York casting director Bob Klein, his assistant Lucy Lavely, and Shifted Focus Headshots, which is a Lancaster-run photography business that focuses on getting an actor the next great headshot for that audition. I thank you guys for tuning in today. Have a good week, and I'll see you next Tuesday.